I never thought I'd be the kind of person to air my family drama online, but after what just happened, I need to put this somewhere before I explode. I'm 26. I work in a warehouse, clock my shifts, keep my head down, and mind my own business. I don't live extravagantly, a small apartment, a decent used car, and a fridge that usually has more takeout boxes than actual groceries. It's not glamorous, but it's mine. I pay my own way, and honestly, that's more than I can say for my parents. See, my parents have never actually been poor, they just like to act like they are whenever it suits them. Money is tight, they'd say when I needed new school supplies, then head out for steak dinners that same night. Or they'd claim they couldn't help me with college textbooks while simultaneously planning their next vacation. That's always been them, crying broke when it comes to me, but suddenly flush when it comes to themselves. So maybe I should have known better, but when it actually happened, it still hit me like a brick to the chest. It was last Monday. I had just finished another long shift, completely drained, already fantasizing about grabbing a burger on the way home. I walked into the lot, reached for my keys, and nothing. My car was gone. At first, I thought maybe I had parked somewhere else. Warehouse shifts are long and they fry your brain, so I walked in circles for a good 5 minutes, telling myself I was just being scatterbrained. But eventually, the sinking feelings settled in. Someone had stolen it. I called the cops, pacing like a madman as I explained. It's a black Honda Civic, 2016, license plate. The officer cut me off. Sir, your vehicle wasn't stolen. It was sold. I stopped dead in my tracks. What? The vehicle was legally sold by the registered owner. For a second, I couldn't breathe. There has to be a mistake. That car is mine. I paid for it myself. The title is under Daniel Carter. And then it hit me. The title. Years ago, when I bought the car, I needed a cosigner for the loan, so my dad's name ended up on the paperwork. I'd always meant to transfer it once I paid it off. But life got busy, and I never thought he'd actually. I laughed, but it wasn't funny. No, it was too familiar. Of course it was him. That night, I got a ride home from a coworker. My fists were clenched the whole way, and when I finally walked through the door, my parents weren't even home. I called my mom, straight to voicemail. Dad, same thing. Then I made the mistake of opening Facebook. There they were, at a luxury resort, lounging poolside, tropical drinks in hand. My dad's arm draped around my mom like they were some kind of jet-set couple. My mom had even captioned it, "Much needed escape. You only live once." I stared at the screen, my blood boiling. My car money had paid for their vacation. When they came back a week later, the front door swung open and they strolled in like nothing happened. My dad was tan, his shirt crisp and new, his suitcase thudding against the hardwood. He didn't even look at me as he spoke. "We needed the money more than you needed a car," he said casually, like he was talking about borrowing a sweater. "It was just sitting there. Alex, you'll figure something out." I gripped the armrest of the couch so hard my knuckles turned white. "You sold my car?" Mom set down her designer handbag with a smile. It was a last-minute deal at the resort, all-inclusive, once in a lifetime. I laughed, sharp and bitter. "Well, as long as you had a good time." Dad sighed like I was the one being unreasonable. "Don't be dramatic, you can take the bus for a while, it won't kill you." I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. "You sold my only way to get to work so you could sip cocktails on a beach?" "Watch your tone," Dad warned, finally meeting my eyes. "We're family. Family does things for each other. You don't see us complaining when we pay for groceries." I laughed again, this time almost hysterically. "You mean the groceries I buy?" He waved his hand, dismissive. "You might as well still live here. You're always dropping by." I nearly choked, "Because you keep sending my mail here, and using my name for utilities." Silence. My mom's smile faltered, like she'd only just remembered I hadn't actually lived there for years. I pinched the bridge of my nose, exhaling slowly. "You didn't even call me. You didn't ask. You just sold it like my work didn't matter, like I didn't matter." "It's just a car," Dad muttered, already bored. "You'll get another one." And that was the moment something inside me snapped. I didn't yell, I didn't argue, I just nodded and said, "Yeah, I'll figure something out." But inside, something shifted, because this wasn't about a car anymore. It was about respect, about how, for as long as I could remember, everything I worked for meant nothing to them if they decided they wanted it. And if I dared push back, I was suddenly the selfish, ungrateful child. The next morning, I went back to their house, determined to say everything I hadn't the night before. When I walked in, Dad looked up from the kitchen table, already annoyed. "Oh, look who's here, still sulking?" I crossed my arms. "We need to talk." He leaned back in his chair, tan from his luxury getaway, arms folded like he was the victim. "Are you really going to mope all week over a car?" I blinked. "Mope? Yeah, look at you acting like you lost a limb. It's just a car, Alex, you'll buy another one." His smirk made me want to put my fist through a wall. I gritted my teeth. That car got me to work. Sometimes I used it for deliveries, extra cash. I was saving. I was building something, but I guess you needed that money more than I did. Huh? Dad rolled his eyes. "You're overreacting. We didn't need the money, we deserved it." I stared at him, stunned. "Deserved it?" "Yeah," he said firmly, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "We're family. Family helps each other. You think raising you was free? Food, clothes, school, that wasn't cheap. Maybe it's time you gave something back." For a second, I couldn't even speak. I just stood there, heart pounding, realizing exactly how little I meant to them, to my dad. I wasn't his son, I was a balance sheet, a resource, something he could dip into whenever he wanted. Finally, I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. "So that's it, I owe you for existing?" He scoffed. "Don't be dramatic, it's one car. One car, my lifeline, my independence, my work, my savings." And in that moment, I realized I wasn't their family anymore, I was their ATM. I let out a short, humorless laugh. That's when my mom walked into the room holding a shopping bag. "Honey, you're still upset?" she sighed, like I was a child sulking over spilled milk. "Come on, we brought you something." She pulled out a cheap wooden keychain, one of those tourist trap souvenirs with a name carved into it, except it wasn't even my name. "See, a little piece of paradise for you." She smiled like she'd just handed me treasure. "And you're mad over a car?" I stared at it, then at her. That's when I noticed another bag behind her, sleek black with gold lettering. Louis XIII Cognac, a $3,000 bottle of brandy. And I knew instantly who it was for, Uncle Roger, my dad's older brother. "You bought a $3,000 bottle of alcohol?" My voice was low, deliberate, but my car was disposable? Dad smirked. "Come on, it's not the same. Roger always helps us out." "You mean he bails you out when you blow through your own money?" The smirk vanished. "Alex, stop," Mom said, exasperated. "You're acting like we stole from you." I stared at them, pulse pounding in my ears. "You did steal from me." Dad scoffed, as if I'd just said something ridiculous. "We're family, we do things for each other." I let out a shaky breath, my hands trembling with how hard I was trying not to explode. "When have you ever done anything for me?" Dad frowned. "Don't start that again." "No, seriously." I stepped forward, my voice sharp. "Tell me, when have you ever helped me?" The silence was deafening. Finally, Dad waved a hand, dismissing me like a buzzing fly. "Oh, stop being so bitter, you'll get another car." And that was it. That was the moment I exhaled, shaking my head. "You know what? You're right." His smirk crept back. "Finally, you're coming to your senses." "Yeah," I said quietly, steadying my voice. "I finally get it. I'm done." His smirk faltered. "What?" "I'm done being your safety net. Done paying your bills when you accidentally forget. Done bailing you out when you overspend on vacations and gifts for everyone else. You're not getting another cent from me." Mom's face twisted. "Alex, don't be like that." "No," I cut her off. "Figure it out yourselves." I turned and walked away, leaving them in stunned silence. I didn't know what they'd do next, but I knew one thing: their easy ride was over. I didn't have to wait long. At 6 a.m., sharp, pounding rattled my apartment door. Not knocking, banging. I already knew who it was. I rolled out of bed, jaw clenched, and opened the door. Mom and Dad. Dad shoved past me like he owned the place. "Get dressed, we need to talk." Mom followed, arms crossed tight. "Alex, this has gone far enough." I rubbed my eyes. "Do you realize it's barely morning?" "Oh, sorry if we're inconveniencing you," Dad sneered. "Funny, since we just found out you're planning to abandon us." Abandon? I echoed. Mom sighed dramatically. You can't just cut your parents off, that's not how families work. I poured myself a glass of water, leaned against the counter, and let out a bitter laugh. Families don't sell each other's property either, but here we are. Dad's face darkened. We needed that money. I needed that car. My voice snapped sharp. That wasn't just transportation, it was how I earned extra pay at work. It was my independence, and you sold it like it was scrap metal. Enough, Dad barked. You're not cutting us off. I tilted my head. And how exactly are you going to stop me? Mom's voice softened, dripping with manipulation. We're family. Families take care of each other. You don't want to regret this later, do you? I laughed, shaking my head. No, but you might. Dad's eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and turned the screen toward them. See this? Every single payment on that car came directly from my account. Every installment, every month. I have records of it all. Mom's face drained of color. So legally, the title might have your name on it. I continued, but financially, that car was mine. And since you sold it without my consent, I gave a cold smile. I can sue you and get every cent back. Dad's nostrils flared. You wouldn't. I have legal proof. His fist slammed the counter. Selfish brat. We raised you, fed you, clothed you, and this is how you repay us? I didn't even flinch. You didn't raise me. You tolerated me until I was old enough to make money. Mom's voice cracked. Alex, please, you wouldn't take your own parents to court, would you? I tilted my head. You didn't hesitate to steal from your son, so why wouldn't I? Dad's face burned crimson. You wouldn't dare. I exhaled slowly. Calm now, then give me my money back. Silence. Mom shifted. We can't. Why not? Dad's jaw tightened. Because the money's gone. Of course it was. Thousands blown on overpriced cocktails and a $3,000 bottle of brandy for Uncle Roger. I laughed under my breath. Unbelievable. Dad leaned in close, his voice low and threatening. You will drop this nonsense and forget about the money. No, Dad. My voice was steady. You'll either pay me back or I'll let a judge handle it. For the first time, he had no comeback. Mom's eyes brimmed with tears. Alex, we're your parents. Yeah, I said flatly, and you should have acted like it. I grabbed my keys, heading for the door. Where are you going? Mom called. To talk to a lawyer. And then I walked out. I thought that would be the end. I was wrong. That night, there was a knock at my door. Not Dad, not Mom. Uncle Roger. He stood there in a pressed suit, tie knotted, expression hard as stone. I leaned against the frame. Let me guess, they sent you. He sighed. They did. I stepped aside. Come in. He set his expensive leather briefcase on my table like this was a corporate negotiation. Then he turned with that same look he always had at family gatherings, the one that screamed I'm the reasonable one here. Alex, he began, your father's a wreck. Your mother's been crying for hours. You really told them you'd sue? I didn't sit down. Yeah, I did. Roger rubbed his temples. Jesus, over a car? I scoffed. Not over a car, Roger. Over being stolen from. Over years of paying their bills while they lived like royalty. Over the fact that they sold the only thing I truly owned without even asking me. Roger nodded slowly, like he knew that was coming. Look, I get it. They crossed a line, but you know they don't have the money, right? Leaned against the counter, a smirk tugging at the corner of my mouth. Then they can get jobs. Roger blinked, like the idea was some alien concept he'd never entertained. Alex, be serious. Your dad's in his 50s. Your mom hasn't worked in over a decade. They're not exactly hireable. I shrugged like it was the simplest thing in the world. Sounds like a personal problem, not mine. His sigh was heavy, loaded with frustration, the kind that made it clear he'd rehearsed this talk before walking through my door. He set his briefcase on the table with more force than necessary. You're not being realistic. Oh, I'm being extremely realistic. My voice was flat, almost cold. Here's what's going to happen, either they find a way to pay me back, or I take them to court. And before you give me another lecture about family loyalty, let me remind you, I've got proof. Every single bank transfer, every receipt, every payment on that car, 3 years of transactions, it was mine. no matter whose name was stamped on the title. Roger rubbed the back of his neck, his eyes narrowing as though weighing how far I was willing to go. "Look," he said finally, voice softening, "I know they screwed you over. I'm not here to excuse that, and I'm not asking you to forgive them." I tilted my head. "Then why are you here?" His jaw tightened. "Because this lawsuit will ruin them." He exhaled hard. "I can cover half of what they owe you, but you need to drop the case." That actually made me laugh. I leaned back, crossing my arms. "And if I say no? Then they lose everything." I smirked again, sharper this time. "Sounds fair to me. Actions have consequences. Maybe they'll finally learn." Roger stared at me for a long, unblinking moment before finally muttering, almost to himself, "You're right." That made me pause. "What?" He nodded slowly, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "Your dad has always been reckless with money, and your mom? She lets him get away with it, every single time. I've bailed them out more times than I can count, but this," he shook his head, his voice dropping lower, "this is worse than anything he's pulled before." I crossed my arms tighter, feeling the heat in my chest rise. "Then why are you still asking me to back down?" "Because this is your family, Alex. Once you take them to court, that's it. You can't undo it. No Christmas dinners, no birthdays, no calls, nothing. You'll burn the bridge completely." I tilted my head, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "Why would I want to go back to a family that steals from me?" Roger exhaled sharply, shaking his head as though I was missing the bigger picture. "You know your dad is desperate enough that he came to me asking for a loan?" That drew a genuine laugh from me. "Let me guess, you told him no?" Roger's expression hardened. "Of course I said no. I'm not throwing money into a black hole." "Then why should I?" He didn't have an answer for that, and we both knew it. I picked up my phone from the counter, scrolled through my banking app, and held the screen toward him. 3 years, Roger. Every payment, every installment, every cent came from my account. He gave it the briefest glance before sighing, defeated. "All right, I get it. You've got a case, but what's the endgame here, Alex? What do you actually want?" I leaned back against the counter again, voice steady, almost calm. "My money, that's it, and if they can't pay," I shrugged, "not my problem anymore." Roger let out another long breath, like he was the one carrying the fallout of my parents' mistakes. "Alex, listen." I cut him off with a sharp wave of my hand. "No, you listen. They've been using me my entire life. Every time they blew through their savings, who did they call? Me. Every time I helped, it was never enough. They stole from me this time, and you think the solution is for me to just let it go? Pretend like it didn't happen?" He didn't speak, his silence said enough. "I'm done being their backup plan. If they didn't want consequences, they shouldn't have sold what wasn't theirs." Roger dragged a hand down his face. "Seriously," he muttered, more to himself than me. I folded my arms, standing my ground. "Are we done here?" He grabbed his briefcase, muttering something under his breath as he headed toward the door. His shoulders slumped, weighed down by guilt that didn't belong to him. Just before stepping out, he turned back one last time. "If you do this, Alex, you won't just be cutting them off. The entire family will turn on you." I smirked, my voice cold and final. "They already have." And with that, I shut the door behind him.